Welcome into a special postseason edition of The Grind, Cajun Nation. The Ragin Cajuns played their way into the #1 seed in the Sun Belt Conference Tournament, but before we get into that, let's look back at how they got here. Remember 2 weeks ago when the Ragin Cajuns were 4 games behind South Alabama in the Sun Belt Conference? Yeah, me too. Since then, the Cajuns have won 6 straight games and they're simply on fire. Game number 1 versus ULM, the Cajuns were starting things off with Gunnar Leger on the mound, then the weather absolutely ruined things. ULM and the Cajuns had to take their ace off the mound, but after that, Eric Carter came in and shut things down. The Cajuns then put up 5 runs in the 6th inning for an 8-2 victory in what ended up being a doubleheader on Friday. Game number 2 was wild. It was a 6-5 victory in 11 innings. Nick Lee got chased after 3, then the bullpen buckled down all the way until Stephen Trosclair hit a walk-off double in the 11th inning. Then finally, to finish things off on Senior Day on Saturday, the Cajuns picked up a 6-2 victory. Anthony Babineau told the team in the 4th inning that a win would give them the #1 seed thanks to a loss by South Alabama, and after that, they scored 5 runs in the very next inning. How's that for a response? With the #1 seed in their pocket, they roll into the Sun Belt Conference Tournament. But first, let's name your Grinder of the Week. Your Grinder of the Week was also your Sun Belt Conference Player of the Week. It's Stephen Trosclair. Stephen stepped up huge with 5 RBI against ULM, and he had multi-RBI and multi-hit games in 3 out of the 4 games last week. If he's heating up, the rest of the Sun Belt needs to look out. Speaking of the Sun Belt, let's talk about that tournament. Pack your bags, Cajun Nation. It's time to road trip to San Marcos, Texas. First off, learn the anti-rain dance because there's about a 90% chance of rain to interfere with some of the games. Rain, rain, go away. We have a lot of baseball to play. Game number 1 will be against Arkansas State, 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday. It'll be Gunnar Leger getting the start as Coach Robe's giving him a chance to bounce back. Earlier in the season, the Red Wolves roughed him up for 5 runs in 4 innings, but Gunnar's a warrior. And remember, if he pitches well and the Cajuns get back to the championship round, you could see Gunnar again. Now, game number 2 brings about a lot of options. Before we get into the matchups, let's just get you some of the logistics. If the Cajuns lose game 1, I know, worst case scenario, they'll play early in the day around noon on ESPN 1420. If they win, I mean when they win, they'll play at 7:30 p.m. on Thursday, and they'll either be facing Troy or Texas State. Now, the Ragin Cajuns picked up series wins over both of those teams, and Coach Robe will have a ton of arms to choose from. Wyatt Marks didn't throw against the Warhawks, so he'll be as fresh as can be. Nick Lee only went 3 innings in his outing, and Evan Guillory is getting hot at the right time of the season. Coach Robe has a luxury whenever he looks into the bullpen as well, so they'll have a full arsenal at the right time of the season. You can catch up with us on Twitter at ESPN 1420 as some of these game times will change, and there will be weather updates as well. And make sure you check back later in this week for another special edition of The Grind as we get you ready for the semifinals and the championship round.